welcome to another fine edition of On the Spot. My name is Ronnie Wiley, and this man pretty much really needs no introduction. His name is Bob Powers. Bob, how are you, sir?
I'm fine, thank you very much.
Journalist extraordinaire, a chain gang operator. We'll get to all that here in a few moments, but first, Bob, you're a Connersville native.
Born and raised in Connersville, never left.
Never left? Not even to go to college?
Nope.
Oh,
never
wow.
went to college.
Well, see, okay, well, that's really going to a great story. So, I know you from the News Examiner.
Right.
All the stories that you wrote for the News Examiner. That's my first introduction to Bob Powers. What got you involved in journalism?
I always had a love of sports, and even when I was young, I would listen to Reds games and write up a story. And,
Oh, wow.
And I just enjoyed doing things like that. And then when I got into high school, I got into the journalism classes and just thoroughly enjoyed that part of it.
So you did, now, of course, back then they had the typewriters. I mean, you make a mistake, you got to start all over, which is, no kids don't know that anymore.
No.
With the computers and everything. So you decided to go to journalism school. Who was the teacher back then?
Lillian Metz. And that's really the way I got started with the News Examiner. In 1954, the sports editor of the News Examiner either enlisted in the service or was drafted right before the basketball season started. And the News Examiner came to Mrs. Metz and asked her if she had anyone in her journalism classes she thought could cover the basketball games for the News Examiner. She recommended me, so my senior year of 1955, I covered the high school basketball, the 54-55 season, and was fortunate there in that in February of 1955, I got to cover the Connersville Christmas Addicts game that is famous now.
Right.
Played in the old
Oscar.
CHS gym with Oscar, and we were the only team that beat Addicts for 2 years.
Wow. Yeah.
So that's really the way I got my start.
So you covered the very first bowl game.
No, at the end of the 55 season, Dick Constanzer had been in the service and he came back and they made him sports editor. So I was away from the News Examiner from the end of my senior year until January of 1961 when I rejoined the News Examiner.
And what were you doing in between?
Working in shops around town,
Oh, yeah?
just manufacturing and things of that nature.
The bug never left?
Bug never left. I had told Mr. George Sinks Tapman when I left, if I ever got a chance, I'd like to get back into the News Examiner. And he graciously called me one time and said they had an opening and asked me if I'd be interested. And I started out as an advertising salesman.
Oh, wow.
But I got my foot in the door, and then I worked in just about every department of the News Examiner, from advertising, worked on the press, worked in the camera room, took pictures, started helping Dick with sports, and went on from there.
Unbelievable. So you're a jack of all trades. It's a learning experience, because I assumed that you had gone to college, but you actually went to the College of Hard Knocks, learned right on the job.
I think they were just trying to find something I could do.
So what was, obviously sports is something that I remember you by, and obviously that was probably your favorite part of the job, is covering the sports?
Oh, yes, because I played high school sports and just loved sports all my life, and I'd been lost without sports.
Wow. What do you remember? Was there any particular moment in your life where you said to myself, this is what I want to do? I know you said back in the day you were writing for writing up mock Red stories. Was that the first?
I really think it was. I enjoyed that so much, and I continued to do it. And then when I had the opportunity to do it in high school, of course, I worked on the Clarion and the Coheeston and things of that nature. But I just thoroughly enjoyed it.
When I was a young kid, I would always pretend that I was on the radio, and I would pretend that I was, I'd make those demo takes that I was some sort of jock. And a buddy of mine that used to work in Dayton at Z93, he was the guy that I would send my tapes to. He found one from 1987 when I was 16 years old that I had sent a tape to, and when I listened to it, I cringed because it was really bad.
Yes.
It was terrible.
Yes.
Do you ever look at your writings from back then as a kid and think, boy, I really improved?
Yes, I certainly do. do. All the time I do that. It just has changed so much in styles.
Right.
And you learn as you go along.
Sure, and that's another thing too. You talk about styles. Styles of journalism, obviously back then, are a little bit different than today.
Yes, they certainly were. Everything is condensed today, and I don't know why, especially in a small town newspaper, but that's just the way it is today.
Now, when you say condensed, you talk, or when you talk about the condensed in today's style, is it because there's so much availability of news sources, or is it just?
I think it's just that papers have become smaller, and you're limited to the number of words. I was fortunate when I was sports editor, and we would run sometimes 3 and 4 sports pages a day, and one page maybe was just pictures of all the events that I'd gone to. And I didn't cover just basketball and baseball. I went to football and track and swimming and wrestling, and whatever was going on, I went.
Yeah, it seems like every time we have a sporting event, we see Grady Tate there. You know, he does the sports.
Yeah.
So I mean, so your schedule for all those years was never normal.
Never, no. I saw my wife basically on the time I had off from sports.
Yeah.
Fortunately, she was a sports fan too, and we got along fine.
Did she get to go with you on some of the coverage?
She always went on the basketball games. Some of the football games, she would stay home because of the weather.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. There's some perk on that.
Yeah.
So you've really, I mean, wow. You started working there 61 years ago, and then went back in 61. I mean, that's incredible. The history that you can. That you remember. Is there one particular? Well, let me put it this way: do you remember your very first story that you got published on the News Examiner, and do you still have it?
No, I don't. I really don't. I presume it was a baseball because that's my first love, and I tried to cover the Spartans. When I got into the News Examiner, like I say, I did several different things, and they weren't really covering some of the minor sports at that time just because of time constraints. Dick was a one-man staff, and he was the editor and covering basketball. And I asked him if I could cover some baseball games, and he said yes. So I started taking pictures and covering some of the baseball games, and I'm sure that was probably my first story.
So you had to take pictures, and you get to pick out which picture. You know what I'm saying? What photograph was used properly. So, and you learned that in journalism too, as well, how to take a proper photograph.
I basically taught myself how to take a proper photograph,
Okay.
and just learn by doing.
Wow. We talked, Fran and I, during the football season. This is your was your 25th season on the Chain Gang. How did that come about?
I honestly don't know. I know I was in the quarterback club at the time, and they were the ones that got the Chain Gang together, and someone couldn't be there, and they asked me if I'd be interested in doing it, and I said, sure, yeah, I'll give it a try. So the very first game, I remember I ran the down marker, and nobody else wanted to do it, so I said, hey, I'll do it. So I did it for the next 25 years.
That's great. I've always wondered how you guys are on one side of the field and the ball could be on the sideline and they pull the chains. I thought they had chains on each side. And so sometimes you have to walk, 50 yards to the other side of the field. How do you know exactly where you were from one side of the field to the other?
It's just sort of a memory thing, and we have what we call clip man that puts a clip on 1 yard line. If we need to put the chains back to that mark, we can. There's been very few times that we moved where we had to return, and when that did happen, it was usually because an official told us to move and shouldn't have.
Oh, it usually benefited the Spartans, didn't it?
We tried.
Yeah. That's what we. Anytime it's real close, I always told Fran, I wonder if Bob can help us out just a little bit, give us that first down, or prevent the other team from being a first down. So you've covered a lot of sports. Obviously, covering it journalism-wise is not the only thing you do. You do the Chain Gang. Is there any other things that you do with sports? You said baseball is your first love.
Well, I help with the home basketball games. I keep the scorebook for the announcer, Larry Myers,
Yeah.
does the announcing in Spartanburg, and I keep the scorebook for him. I help with different things that the school has, cross-country meets and things of that nature. I give them a hand. And I've had 2 grandsons play high school sports, and I've always followed them and gone to more away or football and basketball games in the last 10 years than I care to think about the miles traveled, but it's been fun.
Wow, it's a very interesting life. So we have some old, again, talk about history. And one of the things that I love about the newspaper is the fact that, once it's printed, it stays printed forever.
Yes, it is a
printed forever.
history at that point.
And Connersville has a rich sports history, specifically around basketball, where we have 2 state champions. Richmond just has 1. Franklin
Right.
County has 0. We're the only one in this area that has multiple state championships, and we're proud of that. Very,
Yes.
very much proud of that. Again, the first one back in 1972. Here's a
Plus, we
photograph.
have 3 state gymnastics
I
champions.
totally, you're absolutely right about that. I completely forgot about that. That's when I first got here to CHS was the 87. So they started 87, 88, and 89. I remember that. And I
Correct.
graduated with a lot of those girls that were on that team 3 years in a row. That's right, number 1. Unbelievable. This is a newspaper from 1983.
No, it's
Sorry, that's right,
1972.
1972. And I want to show this up here a little bit, see if I can get this close enough for you, Justin. But the one thing about this right here is that these pictures here, explain how you took those pictures. They're not the zoom fast.
No, at that point, I was taking pictures with a Honeywell Pentax 35 millimeter camera that you advanced the film
Each time,
manually,
yeah.
each frame. And that is the last 4
Yeah.
seconds, I believe. of the
Yeah,
game.
that's the 3, 2,
seconds.
1, and it's you got double zeros
Right.
here. We'll
And
try that one more time.
Fortunately, with 1 second left, we had a free throw, so
Got
I
to
got a
stop the clock.
chance to stop the clock. So.
Wow, that's amazing. So again, back in 1972, photographs by Bob Powers, and then we have the back where the state champions, the Spartans
Yeah, I think
here.
Bill Crone took that picture.
Oh,
he
Bill
took
Crone
the
took that
team
one.
picture.
Yeah. And so again, this is awesome. I'm sure that I don't even want to open this up because but incredible that you go back in history and see, some of the people, and for a lot of people, this has just happened yesterday. I mean,
yes,
it seems like
yes.
it happened yesterday.
And with both state championships, there were points within the tourney that turned the tide for Connersville. The Spartans were behind Jeffersonville in the afternoon game of the 72 state championship by 2 points with a few seconds to go, and Jeff was going in for a wide open layup. And Jerry Ellis came out of nowhere and blocked it.
Oh, wow.
And we went down and scored, and then Jim Free made a free throw right at the end of the game that put it into overtime, and he has told me that he didn't realize we were behind by a point when he took the free throw. So
May have made a difference had he known. Get all the
It
nerves
may
in there.
have.
Wow, yeah, interesting story. Again, I don't really, even if I were here in Connersville, I was 72. Again, it's a lot of people. It's just like yesterday.
Oh,
you
yes.
remember these things? Any other interesting tidbits
I remember
about
those
72?
better than yesterday.
Yeah.
Well, the big rivalry has always been with Richmond, and we played in the semi-state in '72, and Richmond played, I forget what the team was, but they were a heavy favorite and got beat in the afternoon game.
Oh, wow.
And then we beat Indianapolis Cathedral in the afternoon and went on to win the semi-state championship in '72, and a lot of Connersville people were happy that Richmond was
Richmond got
out.
beat, yeah. It'd have been sweet if we'd have beat them on the way to the state
It
title.
would have.
But hey, you take a victory no matter what.
That's
No matter what,
exactly
we
right.
have 2, and again they have 1. 83 season again. 9 years or 11 years go by, no state titles, a couple close ones from what I
Right.
understand, very close. 83 season. What was special about those boys?
The way they worked together as a team, and of course the Heinemann twins were the center of the team. They got a lot of the publicity, and they were that good. But that team had so many role players on it that week in and week out just helped carry the ball team. and even players coming off the bench, they went about 7 or 8 deep. And each and every game, it seemed like somebody different did something.
Wow, that's teamwork.
The one game I remember in that '83 tournament series was against Batesville in the regional in the afternoon.
I think I got a picture of this. Let me see if I can pull that up. This is a classic photo. Yeah, right here. This is a classic photograph.
That was
right
taken by Jeff Gabbard. He was working for us at the time, and it shows Mike Heineman walking off the floor with Batesville's David Gall.
Yeah, what a
And Connersville had won that game. I think it was 49-48. Mike made 2 free throws with a few seconds left, and then Gall made a slam dunk that cut it to 1 point right at the end. But I've always contended that may have been the state championship game right there. Batesville was that good.
What a great! I mean, again, that right there is pure class. That's pure sportsmanship. Right there. Unfortunately, we don't see that much.
No, we don't.
In today's high school athletics, but a very, very good story.
David Gall went on to play at DePaul over at Greencastle and had an outstanding career over there.
Unbelievable. Very, very good. I've heard stories about that game, and then I believe there was a Batesville game in '84.
There was 6 overtimes.
Yeah, that really that was a heartbreaker and put us out of the tournament. Was that the season? Was that?
No, that was, you're probably thinking of the regional game in '84 when we got beat on a last-second shot by John Rippiger of Greensburg.
Yeah, we won't talk about that
We
anymore.
won't talk about that.
Yeah. I had heard, I think Larry had mentioned something like that to me, or Terry Hill. But anyways, you got a lot of photographs from the '83 season. Is that from '83 or is that from '72?
That's from '72.
It is from '72.
Yeah, that's Jim Free. I think it's against Bloomington South. But Jim hit that big free throw in that afternoon game that year to get us into it.
Very glad he didn't realize they were down.
Down a point, it made a difference.
This one right here, and again, Justin's going to put all these up so you'll be able to get a better picture of it. This is Steve Alford right here. Steve Alford, who's UCLA coach right now, Indiana favorite against our 4 guys.
Well, all 5 of our starters
are
shown in that picture, and that's in the championship game of the Indianapolis semi-state.
Yeah.
And we won that one rather handily. I did a little side story about that. Steve had scored 57 points against Broad Ripple in the afternoon game. And everybody was talking about, oh, he's going to be so tired. And he comes out there and plays in the championship game. I went into the locker room after we beat Indian Creek. And Mike Heineman was in there taking off a bloody sock. And he had a blister the size of a lemon.
Oh, wow.
On the ball of his foot. Came out that night and scored 10 points in the first quarter and 15 in the half, and we were never behind against Newcastle in that ball game.
Wow. Tell you what, that sock should be in the Hall of Fame.
Yes.
It's like a Kurt Schilling sock. Here's another picture from the 83
That's the 83
season.
team. That's Wayne Crabtree against Princeton in the afternoon game of the state final.
Yeah, that's what wild-looking uniforms they had back in the day. Yeah, here's the team. Basil Mawby, of course, up front. This is them.
That's the 83 team at the State House. Ralph Underwood was a state representative from this district at that time, and he invited them onto the State House floor.
So you have lots of memories of all these ball games. I mean, obviously, the 2 greatest victories are the state titles. We talked about that heartbreaking loss in '85. Is there any other particular game that really stands out to you, both boys and girls, or any particular sport that you covered that really stands out that says, boy, I was glad I was a witness to that?
There's a lot of them, Ron, and it's hard to recall all of them. I know we had some outstanding baseball teams here in Connersville during a span of time there, and some great players that went through. Bill Mackey was one of the best baseball players I've ever seen. I believe he was drafted by the Detroit Tigers and unfortunately hurt his arm and couldn't pitch. But he hit some of the longest home runs I've ever seen in high school baseball. We won several South Central Conference championships back when we had David Carr and Gary Caldwell and Randy Jobe. Those were just outstanding baseball teams. We've had some outstanding individual track participants, both boys and girls.
Yeah.
The 3 state gymnastics championship teams were
I can't believe I forgot
fantastic.
that one.
And we've just excelled in a lot of sports. We've had wrestlers go to the state champions
Here recently, too.
Just recently too, And Connersville High School has had its share of fame and glory.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's not just from Robert E. Wise. It's from, and we got a lot of very talented people that have gone through these halls that are CHS, and you're one of them.
Well, I didn't do anything of outstanding value, but
Well, I tell you what. Here's the thing: is that this history, that people, all these pictures that we have right here, if you didn't take them, they'd be lost to our memory banks. It's always good to look at things like that. So again, you've covered a lot of. Did you play any sports?
I played football and baseball in high school. My final high school baseball game, my senior year, we played Martinsville for the state or for the SEC championship. Mm-hmm. We were down 2-1 in the bottom of the 6th inning. I singled to start the inning. Danny Clark, who was our pitcher, bunted. We were both safe. And then Nolan Selke, our third baseman, tripled to left center field. If you remember the old Grandview Field, there was the locker room up behind there, and a little hill went up to it. He had a ball up on that, and myself and Danny both scored, and then we held Martinsville in the top of the 7th inning, and we won by 1 run and won the SEC championship.
Wow.
So, but yeah, I enjoyed playing high school sports, and there again, we had a basketball team in 1953 that a lot of people have thought had a chance to win the state championship. Got beat by Milan in the night game of the regional.
There you go.
And
we all know what happened with them.
Yeah, and they won. They went to the state, I believe, that year, and then the following year they won the state championship.
Yeah.
So there's been some great times.
Oh, I'm sure, absolutely, and still more to come. You just again completed your 25th season on the Chain Gang. When is it going to end? Are you still? Is it just a pit love for it?
I just enjoy being out there and talking with the coaches and the players and being close to the action. Of course, I officiated for 12 years before I had.
See, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I officiated with license in baseball, basketball, and football.
Wow.
I officiated from 1962 to 1974 when I became sports editor, and I had to give up my officiating due to my job demands. But I enjoyed that too, and I know most of the officials that come through here, and I enjoy just meeting with them every Friday night.
How hard is it to keep your lips shut without saying that was a hold, especially when it goes against the Spartans?
I didn't want somebody doing that to me from the sidelines, so I don't do it.
Fran and I try not to homer it, but sometimes we can't help it.
And most of the guys are pretty honest about it, and they'll say, "Hey, I might have missed that one," and I'll ask them every once in a while what happened, why they called to play a certain way, and generally they'll give me a good explanation.
Toughest job, one of the toughest jobs there is to officiate, is to keep, because you got to have eyes on the back of your head, on the side of your head. You got to be able to see 3 things at once. It's very difficult. I try not to give the guys in the stripes too much trouble, Fran and I, on our broadcast, but it's a thankless job, and I didn't know you did that.
Yeah.
Wow, interesting. So you've really covered the gamut of sports.
Yeah, I've been very fortunate. I've been involved in sports all my life and thoroughly enjoyed it.
How do you just sit back and just relax and enjoy it without wanting to maybe write a story about it or take a picture of it?
Well, if you follow me on Facebook, you'll know that I haven't retired yet.
Yeah.
I still go out and take pictures, especially when my grandson's playing
you got to do
football, and I'll post the scores and some pictures. And I took pictures of the renovation of Spartan Bowl.
Oh, yeah.
Got that from
Can't wait
start
for
to
that.
finish, and I'm going to. I've put them on disc. I'm going to give a copy of it to the public library and a copy to the school library, so they'll have a record of that. So I keep in touch doing things like that.
Yeah, well, it sounds like you keep in touch a lot. 99 is when you retired. I think you said your last day was December 23rd, took a vacation, actually officially retired on end of the 1999.
Yeah, wanted to get in there before the millennium so that I didn't, we were all supposed to be
we're all
gone.
supposed to be gone, right? Yeah, the computers would blow up and everything. Absolutely. Do you remember your last story and how did it feel to write it? How did it feel to cover it?
My last story was probably my column. I wrote a nightly column. I started out back in '74, this and that about sports, and it was all about sports. And then when I became editor of the paper, Dick Constanzer had written a column called Evening Chat, which
he still does it.
Back to doing. And so I just replaced his column, since he wasn't writing it anymore, with my this and that, but it was about everything in the town.
Yeah.
So
when you hit that last key, and I don't know, at this point, were you on a computer, or did you still do the typewriter?
We were on computers at that time, and I'll say computers are much easier.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Dick, he's still, from what I understand, he still writes on a typewriter.
He does. He still writes on a typewriter.
Yeah, well, that drives me crazy.
Takes it down there.
Yeah, I want to just hit the backspace button instead of having to throw the paper away.
It's much easier to correct
on a
computer.
Yeah, right.
But on the other hand, spell check is the worst thing there is sometimes for writers, because the word a lot of times is not used right.
Sure.
Even though it's spelled right.
That's right. You're absolutely right. Yeah. I can go on and on about that. But your last story was your column. You hit that enter button. How did it feel to think, I'm done?
It was a little bit melancholy, to be quite honest. I thought, hey, that's it. And I've told people here lately, I'm thinking about going back to work so I can get some rest.
That's what I was going to say. It's been, 16 years since you were, almost 16 years since you've retired. Are you enjoying it? Or it sounds like you're more busy now than ever.
I'm enjoying it. I'm one of those type of people that can't say no when somebody asks me to do something, and I'm going to have to start at some point to slow down a little bit.
Because people don't know this, but it seemed like a while to get you tagged down for the show. You got so many things going on. Part of the chicken church at St. Gabriel.
Fair, and I'm the co-chairman of the St. Gabriel Fall Festival.
Which you were doing that a couple weeks ago.
So I keep busy.
Yeah, you sure do. Got a couple minutes to go here. Believe it or not, it's half hour has just absolutely flown by. Any final words about, again, you've seen Connersville at its best, you've seen Connersville at its worst, you've seen Connersville in every shape, form. What keeps you here?
It's just home.
Yeah.
Connersville is home. I've been here all my life. I just enjoy the community. And I think we'll get back. We won't get back to the glory days. The factories are gone. Those aren't coming back. But we'll get back. We'll hold our own. And high school sports will still be a big part of our community. One thing I always tried to do when I was writing high school sports is I tried to make sure that the player who was the last kid in the game got some recognition, because I know how it is for these kids to practice every day and stand there on the sidelines and watch. And I made a special point that when one of those kids got in the game, that he got recognized.
Wow. And I'm sure they still remember that.
I have a lot of them come up to me today that still mention that.
Absolutely. That's wonderful.
Yes.
Best part of the job.
Best part of the job.
Half hour's up. Bob, I thank you so much.
Well, thank you. I enjoyed
for being on the show. Come back next month. This is Bob Powers. He was on the spot. See you next month.